I don't know what it is, but I mean, I don't know. I can't be the only one. Hi. It's like I said, this is just kind of like a fun resort. You don't have to necessarily go to the parks to have a good time here. I feel like it's a little underwhelming for the 90s. Rollerblades, that's what they give us? Sayings like as if? Oh, okay, what's up? What up? Yeah, that I get. Hey everyone, my name is Michael. Mike, Mickey, or hey you. During the pandemic, I started a podcast like everyone else in the world. But then my fiance introduced me to the Disney vlogging community. I've had some amazing adventures, met so many new people, and made lifelong friends. I want to share it all with you, so come along as my story continues with something I call Mousepiration. All right, so we took a look at the All-Stars last week, right? We did the All-Star movies, which I told you is my favorite value resort, my favorite resort on Disney World property. We did All-Star Music for the first time. We did All-Star Sports for the first time. Those are all value resorts. And today, I'm at another value resort, which is, I want to say it's a favorite, but more so, I'm going to say it's just like, it's another really fun resort. We've stayed here at Pop Century before. It's really cool. It's really amazingly themed. I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing this one. We also, of course, put in another mobile order for breakfast. Got to get my Mickey waffles on. But for right now, let's go ahead and take a look at Pop Century. As you come here, you can see Pop Century is all about... We've got... I can't see the nose. Is that Chip or Dale? I think we got Chip. Chip out here greeting guests. I think actually Dale's over by the front entrance. Hi! So Chip was over there greeting some guests, and of course we have Dale right in the front entrance greeting guests. Oh, and he's pointing this way. He's pointing towards Chip. And Daisy's here too. She's taking pictures with guests. This is so cool. It's such a nice welcome here. So of course when you walk in the front entrance, as we were greeted by the characters, you've got your check-in, but this lobby is massive. Like compared to the All-Star Resorts, this one is absolutely massive, long, and the walls are just decorated with all this crazy nostalgia from different decades. The music is pumping in the background. Just a really good vibe at Pop Century. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. Oh, and Everything Pops is like one of the best places for like merchandise at a value resort. I know I said like All-Star Movies is my favorite resort. They've got a really cool shop with Donald's double feature, but Everything Pops is like a really great merchandise spot. They have so much stuff in here, and it leads directly into the food court, which, like I said, we do have a mobile order later on, so I'll show you that in just a bit. But for right now, we're gonna go ahead, turn right, and head out into the resort property. Every resort does have an arcade. This one is the Fast Forward Arcade. Let's go ahead and check out the grounds. So as we head directly out into the back, you kind of see the same setup where it's like you head right to the main pool area. And if you look around, there is just so much to see. And let me show you what the map looks like, because this resort is actually huge. So we are here. We just came out of Classic Hall. And then you have the 60s down here. 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Poolside bar is called Pedals. It's a little bit too early to get a drink at Pedals right now, so we're just gonna walk the grounds and work up an appetite. So like I said, we are in the 60s section, and we are walking around the Hippie Dippy pool. And again, it's just another resort that's got really amazing theming, and it does things that like makes Disney Disney. For instance, this giant vat of Play-Doh, of what could be coming out of Play-Doh, right around the pool. On the opposite side, when you go into your block of rooms, you've got Baloo and Mowgli. It's so much fun. It's just so fun. And they do the same thing here too, where they have like those staircases that are disguised as something. So in the 60s, the yo-yo was pretty popular. And that giant blue thing there is a giant yo-yo. So... but let's head over. I just want to take a look at Baloo and Mowgli, because it's very cute. It's just very, again, it's just fun. There's Classic Hall out that way. We just walked around to the other side of the Hippie Dippy pool. They also have kind of the kiddie section right behind it too. So if you have young ones, they can just kind of run through some shallow water, almost like running through the sprinklers. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I don't know. I can't be the only one that just loves to see things on a grand scale like that. It's just so fun and amazing to look at. I don't know. Let me know what you think. And just in case you're wondering as to why they chose these characters, it's because the Jungle Book movie, the original, came out in 1967. So it fits right in with the timepiece, or the time period. And like I said, you can kind of see these staircases that are disguised. Like I said, this one is the 60s, so it's a giant yo-yo, and it's pretty cool. Really fun. You know, a cool detail, I didn't even realize the rope atop, but they have like that actual opening like every yo-yo has. That's pretty cool, like it's split in half. So just before we enter the section behind me, there's also a really cool spot to take a picture with Goofy here in his surfboard, a classic car, and I'm assuming this is where they also do the campfire. But let's turn around and head into the 70s. Now this one has a staircase that's designed as, I guess, a tape deck. I'm not too sure, but that's kind of what it looks like right now. All right, so this area here is definitely got a lot more shade coverage, a lot more greenage around, but here we go. Oh, this is pretty cool. I mean, you know, I don't think I've ever actually come down this way. I don't know, I probably did. No, I don't think I have. I don't know, but it's really cool. So we are in the classic 70s section. So when it comes to the 70s, apparently something that was very big in the 70s was this Mickey Mouse phone and foosball. So you can kind of jump into this oversized foosball field court here. And in between both buildings, both blocks, like I said, I have the Mickey behind me, and then on this side I have the tricycle, that famous tricycle. I'm kind of right in the center court of foosball right now, so just watching for any flying foosballs. And I don't know if I saw this in the 60s, but they have all these sayings here in the 70s. So they have boogie down. On that side it says, "What's your handle?" I don't know what that is, so if somebody's familiar with the 70s, please explain to me in the comments what's your handle. They also have polyester. Did polyester come out in the 70s? I don't know. So there's a lot of references here that I probably won't get, as I am an 80s baby. So, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a nice detail. I think that's like a mood ring, right? Was the mood ring big in the 70s? Wow. And just real quick, this is so cute. They have Mickey and Minnie in their window and it says "just married." Oh, my little heart. But again, this is what I'm talking about. Look at the grand scale of this Mickey Mouse phone. It is just so fun to hang around and take pictures in front of, great photo opportunities. And of course, I'm still walking around these giant foosball guys. It's like I said, this is just kind of like a fun resort. You don't have to necessarily go to the parks to have a good time here. You can just enjoy yourself and enjoy your resort by walking around and see what's around. Oh, we actually gotta go this way. Oh, wait, let's see. 80s and 90s is this way. All right, let's go this way. All right, and we're gonna continue on to head into the 80s and 90s. All right, we're heading to the back of the 70s now. And I'm gonna keep walking all the way down to this water path. So I've come to the end of the path here, and they got this beautiful water out there. Now across the water, you can kind of see the art of animation, which we will be going into next. But just as I noticed on this path is something that's really cool, is they have like these little facts that happen. So in 1983, the last episode of MASH, it draws the largest audience in a single TV show, 125 million viewers. And I have to think for the 80s, that was huge. But when you go to the back of the 70s, you make a left down this path, and we're gonna head into the 80s. So here to greet us in the 80s is none other than Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. That is so much fun. Like I said, as soon as I come out of the 70s, I made a left-hand turn, and you kind of just transform into 80s as you're walking down that path. They have all these amazing facts about leading up to the 80s, about the 80s. It's really cool, it's really fun, it's educational. Like Walt Disney always said, I'd rather entertain and hope you learn something than educate you and hope you are entertained. And I'll see you guys later. Are the infamous Rubik's Cubes staircases, and I feel like they're still popular today. So I just came from over that way, and something that's really cool about this area here, like all this garden greenery here, is these flowers that are growing on these plants, on these trees, are beautiful. Like, unbelievably beautiful. Is it bee up there? Hi. Hi, I'm allergic to you, but you're still beautiful. But here we are in the 80s, and of course, something iconic which most kids would not recognize today is a Walkman. I think anybody who grew up or was born in the 80s, 90s really appreciates this guy. And of course, in 1988, the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit was out. And that's why Roger Rabbit is here on a grand scale as you enter your block of rooms here. And of course, as you can see, more theming going on around the block of rooms, like Pac-Man was huge. Looks like we got some break dancers. A lot of really cool things. And I didn't even realize, like, because there's a big empty open space right here, and I had no idea why it was so empty because I didn't look down. And now that I'm looking in the actual camera, you can see I'm walking across a keyboard of a computer. So computers started hopping right around the 80s, so this is pretty cool. Although I don't know what this area is really used for other than just an aesthetic and some decoration, but it is really cool. More importantly, I am just in love with the large Roger Rabbit right now. Looks like he got a paint job. I mean, he looks fresh. And I guess this would be considered like one of the more quieter pools right now, not a lot going on. But I noticed the floppy disk back there for computers. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen one of those in a while. All right, let's go take a look at what's around here. All right, so 90s is straight ahead. 90s is building 8. Is that the 90s over there? Let's go see. Now, I was born in the 80s, but I really don't remember the 80s because it was during my child years. But 80s was definitely wicked cool. I mean, I'm so appreciative to have grown up in the 90s and when I did, but the 80s kind of trickles over into the 90s. So I kind of think that's why they have the 80s and 90s almost grouped together around this center pool. Yeah, so this building here, right around the pool that has Roger Rabbit, that is all around the 80s. And for the 90s, it's like the backdrop to the 80s or the pool. So let's see what they got over here. So this is the classic 90s, and they have this giant computer here. And I just said how exciting the 90s were. I think they could have done a little bit better than a computer to represent the 90s. I know there was like a boom of technology in the 90s, but think about like the Disney classics that were given to us in the 90s. And you give us a computer? What? I mean, I get it, but what? Actually going ahead, I'm going to enter this block of rooms and see if there's anything back here that would represent the 90s as well. Like I said, I'm just walking through this building to see what's on the other side, to see if I'm missing out on any 90s. Nope, that's it. When you come back to the 90s, that was it. So we were represented by a computer. Obviously, the CDs are coming out so I can see it on the building. I feel like it's a little underwhelming for the 90s. Rollerblades, that's what they give us? Sayings like as if? Oh, okay, what's up? What up? Yeah, that I get. That one I get. Like I said, I think they could have done a little bit more when representing the 1990s, because the 1990s were amazing. I mean, we were sitting around wondering about Y2K when the turn of the century was happening. There was just so much going on in the 90s that all they did was give us a computer. Now, they got a couple of Mickey heads in there, which is really cool and stuff like that. But, so again, they have sayings across, and it says, keeping it real. And I have people dancing and hip hop. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep it real with you for a second. I don't remember saying keeping it real in the 90s personally when I was growing up, and maybe it was in the older teenage or adolescent ages they were saying keeping it real, but I wouldn't correlate keeping it real with the 90s. All right, I'm done talking about the 90s. The 90s were amazing. Actually, let's see what the staircases are. Maybe that'll save the 90s. All right, so the 90s staircase is a giant cell phone. I get it, and that is pretty cool, but I'm just underwhelmed. So as I've said, AllStar Movies is my favorite resort and my favorite value resort, although this may be the best value resort, and I'm gonna tell you why in just a second. All right, we're heading into the 50s section, and to start off with your staircase theme, we have a giant bowling pin, which is great. I already love the colors coming into here, and I see some Disney characters ahead on a grand scale. Yeah, this looks nice. This looks fun. So this pool right here is shaped like a giant bowling pin, which is really great. I am in the heart of the 50s right now. They have amazing sayings. The block of rooms are decorated perfectly. I love the colors. The movie that came out during the 50s was Lady and the Tramp. So you see our dash of Disney there. They even broke it down to the doghouse of that movie. And they've got real hip hop up there. They have the saying, "You're grounded" up there. So I guess parents started grounding their kids in the 50s. They have transistor radios, vinyl records. And I guess bowling was a big thing in the 50s, or started to become a big thing, because there's a lot of bowling references around here. And across the pool, there's a giant jukebox out there, and it looks really cool and awesome. Let's just take a quick look around. And the 50s is definitely one of the bigger areas here at Pop Century. They have 3 different buildings. And like I said, the 90s was represented by 1 building. So the 50s has 3 different buildings surrounding this bowling pin pool, which is again a quieter pool. And the 90s only had that 1 building that served as a backdrop to the 80s. And keep in mind too, at these resorts there's like plenty of parking. So no matter what decade you're parked in or what decade you're staying in, there's plenty of parking around the entire vicinity to help you get to your room. So don't always park by the main entrance. And like I said, we're just taking a walk around here, and I just wanted to come up to this large jukebox. That is pretty fun and awesome. And what's really cool is like the music changes as you're walking around the decades, which is incredible. It's great. It fits the time period wherever you want to stay. So if you're hanging next to the bowling pin pool, you can hear 50s music around the background. Once again, I'm coming down to the end of this path here that has those really cool facts along the way. This is also if you are a smoker. This is where you would find your smoking sections. And like I said earlier, that it's surrounded by water, and across the pond, you can see the art of animation on the other side. And of course, dividing the water is the Skyliner, which is my favorite mode of transportation here at Walt Disney World. And since we're passing by, I'll take you into Everything Pops. And I'm not going to show you too much of the merchandise, because by the time you see this video, by the time you get here, chances are the merchandise will have already changed by then. But essentially, this is where you would do all your shopping. So you can walk directly through Everything Pops into the food court. You have a big selection of where to choose your food from. I have a mobile order, so I'll pick up my mobile order here for my Mickey Waffles. But it's pretty big in here. It's nice and open. And just like the AllStar Resorts, it's got like a nice selection of different food to choose from, whatever meal you're here for, whether it be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And then you kind of have these middle grounds here, these islands to get your beverages, TVs around. Again, it's still as colorful as the resort, so even the food court's fun. So you can dine inside at the food court, or you can take a seat outside as well. Today's a nice day. It's nice and shaded. As I was saying earlier, AllStar Movies is my favorite value resort, my favorite resort on property, because it's fun, it's themed very well. Pop Century has all of that going on. Also, so I think Pop Century, although it's not my favorite because of the theme, I just love AllStar Movies because of all the Disney classic movies. All the 90s representation that I feel like should have been at Pop Century is kind of over at AllStar Movies. I kind of feel like that's my childhood just threw up on a resort. However, I will say Pop Century is probably the best value resort for several reasons. The merchandise store, the food court, and more importantly, the Skyliner. Having access to the Skyliner to take you to other resorts is a huge perk at staying here at Pop Century. So here we are in the back of the 60s on the bridge that leads you to the Skyliner. Now, one of the major perks of staying on Walt Disney property in general is you have access to all of the resorts and their amenities as long as you're staying on property. So the Skyliner comes in really handy if you want to check out other resorts like Caribbean Beach Resort, which this takes you to the Riviera, which this takes you to. And then also there's access, once you go to Caribbean Beach, there's like a nucleus hub there where you can transfer, you do have to transfer to go to either Riviera and then Epcot, or you can go to Hollywood Studios. So, but again, this is a major, huge perk of staying at Pop Century. And then also, you have access to Art of Animation, which is right across the pond. You just take this Skyliner bridge straight over. don't get on the Skyliner, just take the bridge over and you're walking directly into Art of Animation. So whether you're staying at Pop Century or Art of Animation, you have access to the Skyliner, which is incredible. And that's the next vlog. I'm gonna take you into the Art of Animation, which I feel like is the high end of the Valley Resorts. And until next time when we cross this bridge, let us not lose sight of one thing, that it all started with a man behind a mouse. And it continues with Mousepiration. We'll see you on the other side of the bridge.